Nothing like a almost 1 a.m. recording session.
Right. Rolling camera and sound. Yep, whenever you're ready.
It's too late. Gotta go to bed.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Jared here, and this is episode 4 of Movies and Nonsense. We haven't been canceled yet by YouTube, so this is such a surprising thing. But I am not alone for this episode. I am actually not even in my studio or at home. I am on location over on the West Coast, actually, over in Oregon, Bend, Oregon, visiting two buddies who have their own podcast, the SoCo Show. Guys, introduce yourselves.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'm not even going to do it.
That's true. Let's start with so instead of the
Yeah,
co. So
who's the so of the SoCo Show?
He always comes first. So.
Hey, we can't swear in this one, right? This is non-explicit.
Yeah, fuck that.
The so is Seth Ott, and that's me, the chubby balding white guy of the group.
You gotta have one. I was gonna do a
Every
podcast
group's
by myself,
got
but,
one.
Like you can't. I'm the co-host, Cody Michael, Co for short. That's where we get the SoCo Show.
The M is silent.
Absolutely. And I'm such a horrible guest because I don't even introduce guests. I'm just like, hey, who are you? Introduce yourself. Do your thing. But
hey.
yeah. Hey, who are you? Who's this random person on my podcast? But yeah, no surprise here. It's like 1:15 right now.
Not quite one, but yeah, it's almost one.
Yeah, we just recorded an episode of SoCo Show, which was 2 hours, and now we're doing an episode of this because we went on a nice hike. We saw the sights. We basically burnt our glutes out, but it's been a fun vacation so far.
That wasn't even from the hiking.
No, that wasn't. That's a different video.
I know. I'll be feeling the burn for a while.
Feel that burn. But yeah, like I've been on your guys' podcast. I think I said 5 times now. You guys,
sounds about right.
episode 111.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of episodes of a pod. I mean, like I said, this is 4, and I'm only doing it every other week, and I think that's a lot of time. You guys have done 111 episodes. They're like 2+ hour episodes. Plus, you guys are doing other offshoot stuff of your guys' podcast. Like, it is insane.
It's a lot of time. Sometimes it's been 2 years plus, coming up on 2.5. Sometimes I think, man, what could I have done with all that time? It's probably 1,000 hours we've spent collectively on the show.
It's a long time.
I'm not saying there are better or worse ways to spend my time, but it's the total time spent is climbing, much like my Spider-Man PS4 time played.
Exactly.
Because even with just the time that's recorded, because now the setup is, we used to live together in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, not too far from where Jared's at, and you want me to tell?
I don't want people to know where I live.
Do you want me to tell them your address too? I can let them know where you're at.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 Fake Street.
You should see it on your screen right here.
It's running on the bottom.
I have his exact address somewhere in my phone, so if anyone wants it, DM me. I'm at Cody _ Michael on Twitter.
That's not my Twitter handle. _
Cody Michael. No, so yeah, we lived together for a long time in Cedar Rapids, and then he moved to where we're at now in Bend,
Oregon.
And so before it was just, we'd be like, after work, a certain night, we'd be like, all right, let's go record, and we'd record for 2 hours, and go back to hanging out or whatever we were doing. And now it's, all right, we'll be on the phone, we'll be on Skype for 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes. So there's that one time that us 3 recorded, I think is like a year-end special or whatever, or maybe even like the mid-year. We were on for like almost 8 hours that day just talking.
Well, that was for you guys. Yeah, I was on the call for like 3 or 3.5, and we were. The episode was like 2 hours, but we just bullshitted the rest of the time, just talking about anything and everything. Which is so strange because, like, I guess you guys are slowly just kind of mentioning how you guys got started. Like, what was the inception of the SoCo Show? Like, what made you want to do it? Was it just because you guys loved movies, or you just loved hearing yourself talk, or you just you needed an outlet? I guess. Like, why did you start?
Some of all that, I think. Our thing was this. So when we were living together, a lot of the time, one of us would come home, and we would say, hey, like, did you hear about this today? And we would chat about whatever it was. And we had such long conversations and what felt to us like deep conversations about like stuff in entertainment and sports and games and all
Dude,
that
Spider-Man's out of the MCU.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example of like, oh my God, did you see that today? And we chat
Yeah.
about it. And we started thinking like, oh my gosh, maybe other people would find this stuff entertaining, other than just the two of us. And actually, and you had a big part to play in our origin story, because about the time we were like, oh fuck, we should start to put together a podcast or a show or something, was the time you started on YouTube. And we were like, oh, if he could fucking do it, then
Which, it's true, man. You fucking turn on a mic, you turn on a camera, you just start talking, and you'll eventually find an audience, I guess.
So to relate it back to Spider-Man, Jared was our radioactive spider.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess you were.
Yeah.
Bit him. No, I kind of remember that, though, because I think that we went to a Memorial Day, like, barbecue or a party, and I don't know if that was right when you guys started or right when I started, or you guys mentioned you were going to start doing it, and I'm like, that's awesome.
You had just started. You had put out Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because that was a May movie, I think.
Yeah, it was the very first week of May.
Yep. And so we had seen that, and we had already been talking about our thing, and kind of picture Brandon said, hey, you know, here, what are some things we can do? And then our first project was the ride home.
Yeah, which has been featured on my channel. I'm sure. I mean, it's been what, a year and a half.
It's been over a year since we did it. Since I moved, we haven't done it.
Even before then. Yeah, I think the last one was Black Klansman, maybe.
It might have been.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. And we were doing the video thing. And then the podcast was sort of a side thing. And then those kind of shifted places, and the podcast became the flagship. And the ride home fell off because we can't ride home for movies.
Right.
The conceit of the show, for those who don't know, was that it was our immediate responses to a movie on the ride home from it. And obviously we can't do that anymore. But that was a lot of fun. The first one we did was Spider-Man Homecoming, which was really fun. And since then, we've been doing the podcast every week. I think we've missed maybe 1 or 2 weeks
I think just the one.
in the last 111
Oh, you guys
episodes.
actually missed a week?
Yeah, we missed one, and I think we did like a 30-minute thing for the other, and then we had the solo show, of course.
I think the only one we missed was the week I moved,
Yeah.
I think.
Which, I mean, that's the thing, is like doing that many episodes and staying consistent, that's crazy right there. Like to actually do one every single week and be on time and whatnot. I don't know. It's just, I'm glad that you guys are doing this, because one, it gives me an outlet and more people to talk to rather than just sending out videos or my thoughts of movies online and then people commenting and be like, why don't you get a fucking job? But I guess when you guys first started doing it, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh man, there's 2 of them. They can do twice as much work as me. I'm gonna get pushed out. I'm gonna
that's not
have
how it works.
that's literally what I thought. I was like, oh my god. But I guess in a weird way, because we kind of collaborated for a while, because you guys did that ride home, and it was more, I mean, my reviews are like quick and just the bullet points, but you guys were giving like raw initial reactions, and it was like a 20-minute video, kind of more in depth. It's more discussion based, and then obviously you do a longer review on the podcast as well.
I think for a while, the thing that was great about our videos in tandem with one another was someone could watch your movie and find out whether or not they should go, then go see the movie, and then watch our ride home as like a conversation piece. That was our idea, was like, it was mostly for people who had also seen the same movie, because that's who we wanted to chat with about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, I guess initially that's how I thought. I was like, oh crap, they're going to be stepping into the same arena that I'm doing. But I mean, your guys' stuff, it totally makes sense. It's like, oh, I just went and saw a movie. I don't have anyone to talk to. Who do I listen to and kind of get my thoughts, throw them off, see if they thought the same thing as me. And also, you guys, I wouldn't say entirely spoiled stuff. There was minor spoilers here or there, which, again, that's what people want. After they see a movie, they want to watch and they want to hear kind of everything about it.
Yeah, it turned out, though, only about like 14 people that went and watched your review who saw the movie came back and watched ours. So.
No, man, that Dunkirk video, I don't know what we did with that one. I don't know if that just it posted at the right time or certain YouTube tags or something, because that I think has like 900, almost 1,000 views now, which I guess might not seem like a lot to people, but
Sure.
I mean, on the channel, it's probably in the top 20.
It's way more than any of our other stuff. We have it's a consistent audience, but a small one, and we like it. We're happy with it, and we know a lot of our listeners, which is great. But that was a fun experience to be like, oh crap, like that many people are watching something we put out. I think you talked about this on a video with Dan, where it's not even the video you're most proud of that ends up being the one that's popular. And that one was just a normal, there wasn't anything special.
We were
about
hungover and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
see, that's the thing is like the YouTube, the internet, none of that makes sense because you could put little to no effort into something and it explodes.
Yeah.
Or you could spend your life's work on something and someone's going to call you a piece of shit for doing X, you know? But going back to the podcast, like you guys have been doing this for so long and whatnot, and you mentioned, the kind of inception of it and whatnot, like kind of... Dun, dun. Dun, dun. Besides you moving to a completely different state, like what other kind of like hardships or improvements or inspiration did you guys get for the podcast, I guess? There's a lot there. That was kind of a loaded question.
Podcast inspirations?
Oh, I don't know if there's any hardships that we ever had.
Well,
like
because I do all the
riff.
work.
Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, it's not easy putting just technically, and you know this as well as anybody. The editing that's involved in the time.
Teaching
it took us a
yourself.
long time to figure out our equipment.
Yeah.
We're pretty pleased with our sound now, but it took us a while to get there.
Took a little bit of a money investment with the microphones and all that stuff, but nothing too crazy. Wait, I'm gonna knock.
Oh, jeez.
Knock on the microphone. Knock on the microphone. Knock on wood. We haven't had any lost files yet, like lost audio files. So every week we've been
Which complete side note, I did a trailer reaction right before I flew out here for Bad Boys. And that reaction that you're watching is my second reaction because the first one had a corrupted file. I just started using Audacity. These guys have been doing 112 or 111 episodes, not once. I did it twice, and one of them got ruined.
Yeah.
So I'm not running a great track record right
But
now.
now that I said that, it's gonna because how we do it now, for those who've never done a podcast over state lines, is that or not even in the same room, is that we each independently record our audio, and we even use separate programs. I record mine on my Yeti through Audacity. He has a separate program. He does all the sounders and all that stuff through, which is, we can talk about that as a big change.
Yeah.
But there's easily a chance with the transferring of the audio and all that stuff that could easily be corrupted. And so far, we've lucked out where it hasn't. There was one time shortly after you moved where I had gotten up to go get a drink in between and had pulled the cord out of the bottom of the microphone, and when that happens, it just stops recording. And so I looked down, and like 10 minutes after I'd come back, and I'm like, oh, that's not there. And luckily it wasn't much, so we were able to redo it. The ride home had a load of problems in the beginning. We had a lot of problems
with the ride home.
It was
tough.
We had done multiple ride homes, 2, 3, 4. There was one that we did like 4 times because
oh no,
it might have even been the Spider-Man one.
We did Spider-Man a few times.
Yeah.
It was the problem that we had was when we first started doing the ride home, we were using a cell phone to record ourselves.
Yeah.
And you couldn't use a cell phone to record and also like look at it. So we oftentimes would not be able to see that the phone was recording unless we like got out of the car and looked. And then also, I think we're using my cell phone. It had a maximum video length.
Yep.
So every like 10, I think, minutes, we had to get out of the car and stop the recording and start a second video.
Yeah.
And eventually we got a GoPro camera, and that was less of a problem. But
You got that like months before you left.
just before I left. I got the
Before we
GoPro.
quit doing it.
But so the technical challenges, I would say, would be the big one. And then anytime you're collaborating, it's scheduling.
Yeah.
Finding
Yeah.
the time, especially now that we have time differences.
That's the hardest thing now, I think, is like we'll plan to record on Sundays, and by Tuesday night we're like, all right, we have to do it now because like we've had to push it off a bunch of times. But
yeah,
that's probably the hardest thing.
Well, and another thing about your guys' podcast, like this one is literally, I just want it to be a conversation off the cuff. Like I planned a little bit for this. Like I have questions for later, but your guys' stuff is like you have segments, you have sounders, like the production quality. Obviously, starting off like learning and trying to again gain inspiration from kind of like, oh, well, what do I listen to if I'm a podcast listener? Who do I kind of look up to or admire? And then what can I kind of, I guess, borrow from them? But I mean, from day one to today, the audio quality, the microphones, you've had the scheduling is difficult now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys have so many sounders, so many segments, so many different things that you got going on. Plus, you guys are expanding. You're not just doing, I guess, entertainment like movies and TV and video games. You're going to do sports. There's, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's sketches. There's a lot of stuff you guys are trying to do. Like it's almost a podcast network that you guys are doing.
Yeah. And that, I guess that kind of lead into some of the inspiration, I guess, is some of mine, or Kevin Smith's a big one for me for inspirations. And that's the podcast, even from the beginning, was the one I was most excited about. Like, the ride home was fun and like a good idea and everything, but the podcast was always like, that's something I've wanted to do since I was 16. And so that's where my inspiration from. Another podcast called TSM Radio is a little bit longer back. Stu Stone is the guy's name, but Kevin Smith is easily the biggest one for me. And he's the inspiration for film too. Like, he's the reason that I got into indie films and all that stuff. And so his network, he has like 7 or 8 podcasts in his thing, and that's kind of where came up with different ideas like sketches and all that stuff. So
there was one podcast that we both listened to, and it was it's a fantasy football podcast called The Fantasy Focus, and it was at the time we were both listening. I don't listen to it anymore, but he does. It was 2 guys. They had a producer who would hit sounders for comedic effect all the time. They had different segments they would get into with like musical interludes. And so the structure of our show comes a lot that, and then Hollywood Babylon, which is a Kevin Smith one.
Yeah, we all 3 of us had a chance to go to see that podcast.
And that's the thing is, like, obviously you guys have been doing the podcast prior to this, and that was the first exposure to that podcast for myself. And yeah, they had segments, they had sounders, and I was like, oh shit, like this is kind of because of what I had been listening to was straight up just people talking, which, that's a style, but then there's the other style.
It's like a radio show style, I think, is how I would describe it to someone who hasn't heard. And we try to keep some consistency, with our segments. So a little bit about what to expect every week. But other than that, it's just 2 buddies talking for the most part. And those are the shows that we gravitated toward, and that's what we like to listen to. And so that's what we ended up putting out.
Yeah. And I mean, it also helps because you guys have known each other for like
long time.
Too
the
long,
longest
too long,
time. Yeah. And you've been friends for that whole time too. So like just being able to pick up and talk for 2+ hours is probably super easy, especially since you guys don't live in the same an apartment or town anymore. Yeah. So it's almost like a catching up with a friend every week. It would
be very hard to do with someone that we didn't know as well.
That's why I'm only on once every 20 episodes.
Even when you are in a room with someone, you have to pick up on their rhythm and like, okay, here's how I know Seth is finishing a thought and now it's my turn to pick up on it. It's very much harder to do over the phone, but I would say that we've gotten used to doing that. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. The rhythm and the back and forth between the 2 of us is something I'm actually really proud of. Our chemistry, I think, on microphone. It's apparent that we chat outside of that as well.
It's funny you mentioned too at the beginning, like why we did it. Like, do we like hearing ourselves talk? And I'm like, no, I don't.
I do.
Yeah, I know Cody does.
Yeah. I worked at a phone job for 6-7 years, and part of my phone job was listening to myself talk and review myself, and I hated hearing my voice. And now I've gotten used to it. Like, even though he does the bulk of the editing, I've had to do some editing at times. I used to do the Big Brother podcast where I'd edit that.
Oh yeah,
myself.
I forgot. Yeah, you do the Big Brother
Not anymore.
recap.
I quit doing that.
Discontinued.
Yeah, it's done. It's on the shelf for the time being. But so I've gotten a lot better about that, and it actually does help with like talking on mic, because even at first when we first started doing it, I wasn't very comfortable even saying anything. Like, I could do it, but nothing was cohesive at all.
It was as natural.
Yeah, it was just random stuff thrown together.
Yeah,
you probably know this too. Like, you listen to yourself talk and you edit yourself so much, you start to hear how much you and all that stuff. I feel so much more confident as a public speaker having done this. And I know, like, I can tell that you speak much more clearly and much better from episode 1 to now.
Yeah.
Do you notice yourself doing that since you're watching yourself talk so much?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't like hearing my voice. I think mentally, I think my voice sounds different than it actually sounds when it's recorded, which I hate. But yeah, going back and watching some of my first reviews to my mid reviews to the reviews now, it's quick, short sentences. It doesn't make any sense. It's like a lot of ums and likes and whatnot. And now I try to, like, when I'm editing, if I do have a decent amount of likes in a sentence, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to leave that in, because the thought is there, but it sounds like it's very choppy. But also now I can put together essentially 2 paragraphs of thoughts, where at beginning 2 sentences was the furthest I could get.
Yeah.
A lot of jump. I remember some of your early
Yeah.
stuff with a lot of jump cut.
Yeah.
And
like
it
a
was
sentence at
bad.
a
It was
time.
bad editing as well.
Yeah. The only likes you want with your videos are the like, share, and subscribe to
There
this
you go.
channel.
Yeah, there you go.
Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button down here while you're on the video.
And comment too. What, there was one other thing. No, the helping with public speaking. That's surprisingly one thing, like, I didn't think that this would do. I mean, because a lot of my stuff is just talking to no one. But that has helped me in jobs, in life, with just talking with other people. And Cody, for example, you do stand-up comedy now. I'm sure that this here helps you a lot.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, just going through the exercise of, recording. I always record my sets when I do stand up, and then I go watch them back. And I think editing on the podcast I think that got those muscles ready to do it on stage. And so, yeah, I'll run through a joke a number of times and work on editing out likes and ums. So that I can get more comfortable telling it, or I'll add in likes and ums. It's different on stage than it is in a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes likes and ums are helpful to tell a joke. So the editing mindset is something that I think I got mostly from the podcast and then apply in comedy.
Yeah, and I guess 2-3 days ago, I guess this is gonna post a couple weeks later, but I'd never seen you do stand up. I had heard it before and I'd never seen it, and you seem like a natural up there. I mean, I've seen you do like MC stuff for Dub H and other public speaking, and you're a natural up there. You feel very comfortable.
I love it. It's probably my favorite thing to do.
Is it
public
because
speaking.
everyone's staring at you?
I think that's what it is. I've always been. I mean, it's not a secret. I'm an attention. I love attention.
You're an attention what?
I like attention. Okay? And it's, I think that I get nervous when I go on stage for sure. But it's good pressure, and I think I do my best stuff when I'm under that kind of good pressure. But yeah, it's
Easy, David Bowie.
I feel comfortable on stage, other than the natural nerves that come from being in front of a lot of people. And I also understand that that's rare, and not a lot of people feel that comfortable. And so it feels lucky to me. It's not something that, like, it's like an innate thing. Like being tall is innate. I think it's just something that you're born with or you're not. I don't even think it's something you can really work out all that much. So I feel really lucky that I like doing that, but I really do. Anytime I can get on stage for whatever reason, I'll do it.
I guess future for the SoCo Show. Like, are you guys just going to do this till you die? Do you guys have goals? Do you love the kind of smaller fan base and like more intimate, I mean, you've done a few, like we did a Oscars, kind of a bracket essentially. And you had people you didn't even know enter, which usually people who are texting you about the podcast are people you know.
Right.
But that's kind of cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
The biggest, I think a lot of our audience is, like I said, people that we're friends with. And so they'll text us and say, hey, this is something about the show. But to get a submission for that contest from someone who we didn't know, we're like, oh, there are real people out there that aren't our friends that are listening to our show and are fans of it enough to submit a contest that we're doing. That was probably the coolest thing that's happened since we started doing the show.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
And that's only one person. Again, there's probably quite a few people that listen that are passive listeners. They're not actively contributing, texting, commenting, anything like that. But I mean, obviously, you guys got a bunch more, I guess, separate shows coming, but years from now.
Well,
I mean, I feel like I've asked this every single time I've been on too.
well, I mean, we hate to say this, but this is it.
Oh no! Episode 111 is done. That's it.
No, I mean, for me, we've kind of talked it like just as like a pipe dream type thing. Like for me, the coolest thing that we'd be able to do with this would be a live show, like a live show in like even like 100-seat theater, something like that would be awesome. That would be an ultimate. And I don't even like want to talk on stage, but I think that would just be so cool to say I did that. That'd be awesome. So, you know, if there's enough people to even like come the $5 ticket, if it's an outdoor show, like I don't care, like just any sort of I mean, the thing you were on last night was a live podcast. Yeah. Jared and I were the only audience members.
Oh, I loved it though. I absolutely
cool.
loved that.
It was
I wanted to be up there and like doing that, but with, you know, 4 people instead of 2. So, you know,
for us, I think that what we love about the show is a couple things. We like talking to each other, which is awesome. Like if no one listened, we would still do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's how we stay in touch now that I've moved. And we just like having these conversations with everybody else too. And I know you're in the same boat. Like we're so into specifically movies that like we want to talk with other people about it. So if we had 20 people come watch us do it live and be a part of that conversation and ask us questions and stuff, that's the ultimate. Like unless someone wants to pay us to do this, which if you're out there, let us know. But, I don't think we have huge ambitions of being famous or anything like that.
Yeah.
We just like doing it. So I mean, we've reached where we want to be, I think.
Yeah, in terms of the actual show, but like for me, the one that I'm most excited about doing more of is the sketch show. I think that's way more like there's a lot of creative stuff, quote unquote creative stuff involved with the actual show, different segments and whatever. Coming up with the segments is a lot of fun, but the sketch show is entirely, you know, it's fiction and it's supposed to be funny. We'll see if it is.
Yeah, we'll see.
But and that takes way more like creativity and just like the editing. Even like you have to add the sound effects and create a setting, like an audio setting and all that stuff. And so that's one I'm most excited about to do more of. But there's also another scripted series that I've done written an episode on. I want to write more of that on and do a dramatic series instead of just a comedy one. So, you know, it's all stuff we definitely like to do. But I think the goal, like for me, that I'd love to see the most is the live show. That would be so much fun.
And I guess thinking about that'd just be awesome because it's like, okay, we started from nothing. We didn't know how to use audio. We didn't know how to essentially edit. I mean, Cody, you've edited a little bit with Dub H, probably not too much. But coming from nothing to that would be just so cool because it's like, I created this, you know?
Well, and that's, I think, one of the cool things is and you're the same way, like we just decided to do this stuff one day and now it exists.
Oh yeah.
And there are, you know, a couple dozen people that listen to it every week, but it was 0 2 years ago. And now it's a couple dozen. So like having an idea and then now it's a physical thing. We'll always have 111 episodes of our podcast that didn't exist before. And you have all your videos that didn't exist. It's just a really cool feeling to have.
Yeah, when he moved, I sat and listened to like 80 episodes and cried every night to sleep. So, which was nice. It was a good companion piece.
Oh man, that's good. That's good shit. Hold on, I need a drink.
H2O, right?
Yeah, that's definitely H2O with a little vodka. I guess like this is obviously the first time I've had you on my channel, except for the ride home and stuff. But like, let's get into some of these. What's up?
We did film that one.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, this is a complete side story. Something that
I'm so upset about.
Yeah, something that doesn't exist anymore. But you guys came down to watch what, Infinity War?
Yeah.
So we went to Infinity War. I think we just did a podcast, I think.
We did a ride home, too.
We did a ride home?
Yeah, because our minds were blown after that movie.
I do remember that. It was the longest ride home ever.
So they came, visited, did a episode of Ride Home, podcast, all this other stuff. But there was one night where we went out drinking.
Yeah.
Came back at like 2
and
o'clock.
Did we ever drink?
Oh, we drank a lot. That's the thing. Whenever I'm hanging out with them, not good.
I was sober. You guys were shit-faced.
Yeah, allegedly. But we filmed like this bananas intro for my for the Infinity War review of mine, and like you were wearing
dressing.
a wig or something. I don't even know. Like it would have been great, but then the
made
bad
no
thing
sense.
is the next day I deleted all the footage accidentally.
Yeah,
because I needed to clear.
accidentally.
Yeah, I had to clear out the card for my actual review.
Yeah.
So that intro or the audio, something was lost, and yeah, that's just one of those random things that coulda, shoulda, woulda.
And say I would have, because I think it was me dressed in the stupid ass shit.
Oh, it was you doing a bunch of dumb shit.
Yeah. And
It's probably for the best.
So at least I would have made my
Yeah,
debut.
it probably was not politically correct or something like that.
No, I didn't say anything bad.
It was pretty funny.
Hey, we don't know. The footage does not exist.
You
That's
can't
true.
prove that you didn't
Wait,
say something.
until I become like the president or like a famous director or something, and then that video
Then it'll pop
surfaces.
back up.
Jared's blackmailing me for $3 million.
Absolutely. So let's get. I mean, we're already like 25 minutes in or something like that. But let's get into some of these like icebreaker first date questions or whatever.
I love these.
Kind of like pick your guys' brains, and also like there's some stupid random ones in here as well. So first up is a favorite movie you are embarrassed to admit.
Ooh. Do you have one?
I guess I'm kind of embarrassed that I like Clerks 2 is probably the movie I've seen the most in my life, and it's not necessarily a good movie. But it's like my comfort movie. And so when people ask what my favorite movie is, like I always say like Dark Knight or something, but it's probably Clerks 2. Even though I went back and rewatched it recently, it's not correct at all. Talk about politically correct.
Yeah.
There's definitely some interesting things in that movie, but it's probably the movie that like when I watch it, it makes me feel the most like
Makes me feel alive.
kind of. It makes me feel like I'm 16 again, and I like don't have to think about everything else going on. So
Almost an escape of some sort.
yeah.
I don't think I've. If you asked me this like 5 years ago, I would have told you some girly musical.
Spider-Man
I
3.
love musicals.
27 Dresses.
I like rom-coms. So, but now like it's 2019, it's pretty okay for me to like that kind of stuff. But you just said it. I think Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and the Star Wars prequels are all movies for which I'm an apologist big time. And I'll fight someone who tries to tell me those are bad movies. I get why people don't like them, but I don't think that means that they're bad movies.
They might fight you, but
So
they'll win.
I think Spider-Man 3 maybe being the prime example, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3, that is, of a movie that I will assert to you is good and I love, regardless of what the internet thinks of it. That would probably be mine.
Well, I mean, the live show or podcast you were on 2 nights ago or last night, you did the same thing. You were like, hey, I love Spider-Man 3, and everyone on that panel
They all laughed.
They all laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you explained it. You're like, hey, this, that, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it kind of makes sense.
I someday will probably write a book about how that movie is
Just
good.
a video essay, hour-long video essay
That's
over
what I
it.
should do. Yeah, I'll do a video essay of why Spider-Man 3 is good.
Well, you can post it on not the SoCo Show page.
Here's a quick one. Have you ever walked out of a movie, and if so, what was it?
I never have.
Or you haven't, Seth, have you?
So not since I've started going to movies, like myself and everything. But
Yeah.
I remember when I was really young, I was at the Muppet. It's the one where they're like pirates. What's that one?
Muppet Treasure Island.
Muppet Treasure Island. I remember apparently I was having a freak out that day. I was like 4 or 5 or how old I was. Watch, it probably came out in like 2005 and I was like 14. But no, I had a fit that day in the theater in our hometown of Owen. I remember that theater exactly. And my parents never took me to movies like ever. And that was apparently why, because we left like 20 minutes in. So that's the only time I remember leaving a movie early.
I guess I might have one. So I was going on a birthday party to see a movie that was for kids. I think it was Agent Cody Banks 2.
Nice.
But we walked into the wrong theater and it was playing, and I don't know if these movies are right because I don't know if they came out at the same time.
Yeah.
But I Know What You Did Last Summer 2 was the theater we walked into.
Oh, no.
And we didn't know, we sat through the trailers for whatever reason, which must have been for horror movies. And then the opening scene of I Know What You Did Last Summer came on and scared the shit out of like we're like 9 years old.
Yeah, I was
we
going
got
to
the
say,
hell
you
out
had
of
to have
there
been kids.
and went over to our movie and it was fine, but like I still remember that.
And now you love horror movies.
Okay,
Now I love
well,
horror.
I guess then, like, if you said you hadn't done that, I was going to ask, what was the closest you've been to walking out of a movie?
Serenity.
You were
recently-
going to walk out of
That movie's
Serenity?
amazing.
Recently Serenity
Before or after the most amazing twist in a movie?
before because
Really?
the twist in that movie, without giving it away, sort of makes okay all of the shitty things about that movie beforehand. Like I hated I was like this movie is bad and poorly made. And then there are some things that go on in the climax that you're like, oh, this is why. But without the why, I was like, this is just terrible. And I'm hating it. And the Beach Bum is another one this year.
Oh,
that is
I
just
skipped
bloody
that one.
terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Matthew McConaughey's having a shit year.
I haven't thought about walking out of movies, but I often fall asleep during movies. So if a movie's bad, even if a movie's good, I'll fall asleep. But if it's a bad movie, I'm out. Like Men in Black International, I was out for an hour of that movie. That movie was so bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Men in Black intentional.
Yeah, intentional. Valerian's one from last year that I couldn't stand. That was bad. Yeah, other than that, I can't think of a lot.
Oh, mutually, I would say the two of us went together to Bladerunner 2049.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
I get that people love that movie.
Yeah.
We hate that fucking movie.
Yeah.
Because it's so long, right?
It takes Ryan Gosling like 40 minutes of a shot to walk upstairs. Like that. It was so dreadfully.
He's just a really old robot. Come on, he's rusted.
And I get like the artistic choices and all that stuff, but at a certain point, seeing someone walk can only go so far.
And while you're doing that, the music is so stressing in that movie. The score of that, like I thought I was gonna have a panic attack and that we were gonna have to leave. Like it was seriously stressing me out.
You checked your watch and you're like, dude, there's another hour and a half of this movie left.
That's one where like it was a long, like 2.5, almost 3 hours, I think, and that's not a movie that moves at a fast
Well, and that was a
pace.
summer movie too.
Yeah.
Which
Oh yeah, because we watched the first Blade Runner like the night before, and we're like, okay, that's fine, but why is everyone
creaming their
out?
jeans
Yeah.
over it?
And then we went to this one, and nope.
If you had leaned over and said, Cody, do you want to leave? I would have.
All right, next up, if you could live in any fictional world or timeline from a movie, what would it be?
From a movie.
How about I'll add a show in there as well. A movie or a show.
I'd probably still go movie, but
I have a couple. I'd love to live in Miles Morales' Spider-Verse.
Okay.
That would be pretty dope. Nice, cool, cartoony world, snappy hip hop music and bright colors and all that stuff. But I think my top answer would be the world of the Oasis in Ready Player One.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I'm a bigger fan of the book than the movie, but that whole super immersive VR experience with every pop culture character ever, that would just be super fun.
I got 3 that stick out. There's probably one that's most important for me, but one is just we watched recently. I kind of want to be in Derry during all this.
What?
stuff.
What?
The hell is wrong
In
with you?
chapter 2,
As an
Derry?
adult and seeing what's going on. I might not understand what's going on, but I want to be in Derry and understand what's going on and see what the craziness.
Wow.
Derry is lived in. It's like a character.
Don't bring your kids around Seth.
Oh my god, I'm learning a lot right now.
Wow, negligence is what he
Holy
wants.
shit. You want to see children get murdered, okay.
It looks fun.
Okay, next up.
Harry Potter, the world of Harry Potter.
Sure.
I've spent a lot of time there through the movies and through the books and the audiobooks, all that stuff. And when I walked into Harry Potter world in LA, I felt like
Did you freak out?
Kind of. I wasn't like crying like my dad was, but no.
I'm sure he was.
No, my dad was not crying. And then the third though is definitely the View universe, just in general, like the Kevin Smith verse.
Oh, okay.
That has all my favorite characters in it. It's that world definitely feels lived in. I would love to live in that world.
Okay, in that universe, does Tusk exist?
No.
Thank God.
Anything basically that Jay and Silent Bob is in, and then potentially maybe Zach and Mary Make a Porno is in that. Have you seen that one?
Yeah,
Zach?
I've seen that one.
Because Justin Long's character from Zach and Mary is going to be in Jay and Silent Bob reboot, so that could potentially mean.
Okay.
And there's really nothing that says it's not, but the universe is also all New Jersey too, so I don't know.
Gotcha.
You'd have to live in New Jersey though in that
Yeah, it'll be
fantasy.
okay. It'll be okay. That's one place I want to go. I want to go to the Quick Stop, real life Quick Stop, and I want to go to the comic book store where all the memorabilia is at. That's a trip of mine, a bucket list trip of mine.
All right, let's get into a few more. If you could choose one, movies, okay, today, movies that have already come out, you can only watch these two things. Movies that have already come out or movies that are going to come out for the rest of your life. Today, right now, all the movies that have already come out, movies coming out.
That's easy for me. It's
Which one?
movies coming out. Like I'm always looking for the next new movie. I rarely rewatch movies at all.
Yeah.
I went to Endgame 3 times. I've been to the Avengers movies I think except for Ultron. I think I only went to Ultron twice. I went twice. The other ones I went 3 times at least. And I otherwise, like, all of my favorite movies of the year, I never go back and watch. So for me, it's movies coming out.
See, I love rewatching, so this is really hard for me because if I choose the past, I get almost all of the Star Wars movies, but not the new one.
Yep.
And if I choose the future, I get the new one, but I can never watch the old Star Wars movies again.
Me so sorry.
That is tough. I just for the sake of choosing the opposite of you, I'll say I'll go back and watch.
I'll fill you in.
The old movie. I have a lifelong. Seth operates on a yearly top 10 list or top 100 list.
Yeah.
I have lifetime favorite movies, and I don't think I would want to give any of them up.
Yeah.
See, going with what you said, Seth, I have found myself recently not rewatching movies as well because I just don't have the time, I guess. But 5 years ago, I'd watch the same damn movies every single week, night, month, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that just what's coming next, I think I'd want that. But then again, there's that nostalgia factor, and you already know what you're going to get. It's like you could gamble because who knows, maybe an EMP explodes. 5 years from now, that it's over.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
it's definitely interesting to think about.
Well, and how many movies did you not see that are already out?
Right.
You could spend your whole life seeing everything that you didn't.
But you could also, I mean, this would get into semantics, but new could also be like movies new to you potentially too. So if you want to,
that's not part of the question.
by release date, right? So so you go back and watch.
But I think going back to like when I said earlier about Clerks 2, that was probably the last movie I've watched over and over again.
Really?
Like ever since then, and that was like for a couple years I was doing that. But like ever since probably high school, I rarely go back to stuff multiple times. And if I do go back to it, it's probably in the theaters. I've bought 40 Blu-rays over the course of a couple years.
Haven't even touched
maybe
them.
Watched half twice. Like
I'm the beneficiary of this because I get the digital copies when he buys the Blu-rays, and I rewatch it.
Yeah. All right. Let's go with one more. What is the worst theater experience you've ever had? Because I know mine. I'll let you guys think. Do you want to hear what mine is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, there's two different ones. One's dealing with someone talking and whatnot. That one's not as interesting. This other one, go to a theater in Des Moines that I had maybe been to once or twice. And it's opening night. There's like 2-3 rows just completely open. And I'm like, awesome. I'm going to get a great seat, blah, blah, blah. And I'm walking in right when the previews are starting to play. And I think I got a pop or something, blah, blah, blah. Sit down. And I'm like, man, this popcorn, something smells a little weird. And I'm like, maybe it's just me. Like, I worked out. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's someone's popcorn or someone farted. Who knows? And I'm like, this smell, like 2-3 previews later, still just pungent smell. Look down. Someone threw up all over that row. And I was sitting either on it or right next to it. And then I'm supposed to see a movie for another hour and a half. So luckily I moved. But I'm
Still
like,
smelled like barf.
yeah. 100%.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And that's
and the thing is, there was people in the theater. I know that they had probably tried to sit in that row. They didn't warn me or anything.
Yeah.
They probably watched me do it and were like, "Oh, that guy's fucked," and then saw me move.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, now when I walk in and go through, I like turn my light on to see like where I'm going, or I get there before the lights go down.
Before the people barf.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Do you remember what film it was?
It was last year. Oh God, mid 90s maybe.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Maybe.
He does throw up in that movie at one point. Maybe it's like
maybe it was immersive,
added
like this
experience.
4D
4D.
experience. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't really have a ton of negative theater experiences. Like We went to Quiet Place. We had some idiots next
That's
to
what
us.
came to mind for me.
I think one though that could have been, and for a lot of people was super negative, but actually I ended up enjoying the hell out of it. Was Rocket Man. When I saw an early screening of Rocket Man, and there's a thunderstorm. So as like there's a point when every time there's a movie where it does like the theater like song, and then the next thing that comes up is going to be the title card or the studio card or whatever. And so that does the song, black screen like it normally does, and then there's a thunder that from outside, and the lights flicker. And because it's all automated, didn't come on. And so it was like 45 minutes that they were working on this thing, and there was people next to me like, oh, we should get our money back. And I'm like, whatever, let's just, it's going to start. And what they ended up having to do is they started it, no sound. Started it, only a certain amount of sound. Started it. So they started 3 times. We saw the same scene like 10 minutes in 3 times. And then during that whole time, people are playing Elton John music. Certain people are playing Elton John music. People are like clapping along and stuff. And then when they finally had dialogue, people went fucking nuts. It was amazing. I wish I would have gotten like a free ticket out of the whole thing, because we did have to, it was like an extra half hour, 45 minutes before I left. So it was pretty late, but it was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't, I guess. I mean, you still got to see the movie, but I'm kind of surprised that they didn't try to compensate you somehow, because, I mean, we tried to see a movie and they didn't have the format that we paid for.
Yeah.
And gave us 4 or 5 free tickets.
Yeah. I think they did this one. They did like Kingsman, Rocket Man. They did, but you had to not come back. You got the free tickets if you left. So
Gotcha.
I was like, I'm here. I'm gonna see this movie as long as it plays.
Well, and it wasn't it early, like an early screening.
It was like 2 weeks early before it came out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'd love to see this before. I think that the week it was actually coming out, there's like 3 other movies I was gonna see. So
We had a similar experience trying to see Baby Driver at a pre-screen and had to leave. We got free tickets. Basically, they just couldn't play it for some stupid reason. So they gave us our tickets back, and then we went across town and saw it at the other theater.
yeah, they're playing the Tupac movie instead.
That's right. They fired up Tupac's All Eyes on Me.
Yeah.
In the
Instead
wrong
of Baby
theater?
Driver.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with Baby Driver to me. I went to a theater and the sound or something cut out, and they had to restart it 10 minutes in. And then the same thing happened, and people left. But I was like, I'm seeing this. I think it was opening night or saw it a day early, and I was like, I'm going to stay here because I want to see this movie.
Yeah.
We talked about Bladerunner. That was probably one of my worst theater experiences.
Yeah.
That movie really stressed me out. Like, I don't know. It tapped into some shit of mine that I don't know about, but I very nearly was having a panic attack during that movie. So
There's going to be a lot of people commenting, being like, that guy,
This guy doesn't know
those
anything.
two don't know what cinema is. I don't know how they have
Yeah.
a podcast. This
Yeah.
is a masterpiece.
Yeah, we don't watch Game of Thrones either, and we talk about TV.
I've never
so-
seen Game of Thrones either. I know a guy's dick gets cut off and some sister's fucking a cousin or something.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole show.
Oh, yeah. So there we go. We don't need to watch it.
All
That's
right,
the thing
problem
with
solved.
the Blade Runner thing is like I get it. I get why people would like it. It's just so not for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to tell you it's a bad movie, but I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
Yeah.
So you want a sequel?
I'm sure there'll be one. It made some money.
Yeah, they're probably, well,
Heck, no, it didn't. It
didn't?
Make,
yeah.
No.
It
didn't
cost
make
a
very much
lot,
money.
but I don't think it made it.
Oh, they spent a lot. That was my confusion.
So we're
Yeah,
safe.
not good for the Blade Runner. I mean, who knows? 20 years from now, it could become kind of what a cult classic, kind of like with the original. Because again, I went back and watched the original. I had never seen it, and I was like, it's good. It's not what everyone was clamoring, like greatest thing ever, blah blah blah. And also, I think I watched the wrong version because there's 17 versions. It's like, oh, watch this one where the screen's inverted or something like that.
That's another point where it's like, if you have to watch the director's cut for it to be the best movie ever, then I don't think it's the best movie ever.
It's like, why didn't they release it that way?
Yeah.
Release the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Release it. Start a petition, people. So let's get into a kind of an actual like kind of topic, because we got your origin story, we got some quick questions and kind of picking your brain. But we always quote movies and go back and forth and stuff, but it's usually like parody films. Like, I know all the scary movies we always go back and forth on, but that's kind of like a genre that I don't think really exists anymore. Kind of like, what happened to it? Is it a thing that disaster movie, Meet the Spartans, stuff like that ruined it?
Probably.
Or is it just there's not a market for it anymore?
Yeah, I think it definitely got oversaturated. I'm one who I think was on the parody train much longer than I know you were.
He got off real quick.
Yeah, I went and saw Scary Movie 5, and that movie was awesome. But no, it's not good. It's better than Bladerunner though. But no, yeah, there was definitely just a ton of them especially in like the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah,
Scary Movie 5 was like the last one because it had the name to it, and they're like, all right, let's go for it.
Well, the thing is, Scary Movie 5 wasn't even done by like the Wayans anymore. They started a movie called Haunted House, which is Haunted House and Scary Movie 5 are literally the same movie.
Yeah.
It came out within months of each other.
Yeah. So they did do those. They did do the Haunted House. And there's been a few like Meet the Blacks, maybe. I think that was the one that's like 50 Shades of Grey parody movie.
Yep.
So they still did them, but I think like the last gasp, I think, of trying to do the one theatrically like as a major thing was probably Scary Movie 5, and that was bad. But yeah, there was just so many superhero movie, date movie, disaster movie, all this stuff, and it just kind of people were like, all right, we see it, we get it.
Yeah.
I think that for one thing, those are bad movies. And so it wasn't something a lot of people weren't trying to like, we got to replicate superhero movie by doing our own. But these movies are still always coming out. They're just going direct to video. We were just talking about Avengers of Justice.
Yeah.
Which is a crappy parody. And I think one thing that's difficult for parodies now is things move too fast to be able to say this is a parody of that thing and have it matter for any amount of time. Like you could make the amount of time. What's it take? 2 years beginning to end to make a movie. Everything is outdated by the time you finish it.
I didn't even think about that, but that's exactly kind of the culture that we're in. Everything is a week or a day old, and it's already old news. So that makes sense so much.
It would have to be like Spaceballs would make sense to come out today because it's it's something that exists. A Star Trek equivalent of Spaceball, like Galaxy Quest. So there are movies like that. Like The Orville is big right now. That's essentially a Star Trek parody. It's not a parody because it's not making fun of so much as an homage.
Yeah.
But I think it would have to be something like that. Some long-standing institution that's now timeless. But if you try to be topical and like current, it never is going to work.
I think the best option would be superhero movies because that has been something that's been around for a while and probably is going to be around for a while longer.
Yeah.
Maybe horror to an extent, but even that, like, horror has changed. Just the horror genre has changed in general since even just a few years ago, like with the original It coming out. So it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to do one like you said. I think, and there's so many options for movies and TV now, even compared to 5-10 years ago. Netflix is releasing a movie a week and a TV show a week, and Hulu's releasing movies, and there's VOD. You're seeing all these big actors be in VOD movies immediately. Casey Affleck just had one. There's a whole bunch of them, and so there's so much content that if something like a small VOD movie comes out, someone tries and parodies it, they're not going to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
I guess, I mean, you mentioned that they were not good, but about, like, for example, Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, and potentially 4, about that time, I thought they were pretty good. If you look back at, like, Airplane, The Naked Gun, a few movies in that time, hell, even Night at the Roxbury, not a great movie, but it's there. Like, there are good ones. Which is so weird because it's like, I think it's because they were older where, like you said, the whole time thing. Because I didn't even think about that until you just mentioned it. But, like, Airplane, I love Airplane. And also, like, Hot Shots and stuff like that. Yeah. But then also thinking about that, are there parody films that you watched multiple times? And then you went and watched, like, for example, you watched Scary Movie.
That's
then
the
you
prime
went and
example.
watched...
Yeah.
What?
That's the prime example.
Yeah.
Because for the podcast, we do the We Missed the Boat segment where where we each have 5 movies we know that each person hasn't seen, and then we each week trade off watching it. One of my movies to watch was Scary Movie. Not Scary Movie, Scream. Exactly, that's the thing. And I had seen Scary Movie. I've seen the first 3 so many times, especially number 3. So seeing Scary Movie, there's a lot of points in Scream that are beat for beat Scary Movie, and I'm like, okay, like that's pretty damn good. I think to your point about like the quality, I think there were more quality back then because they were parodying movies. There was only one movie every few weeks coming out. Everyone had seen that movie, you know? And so you can parody that stuff because it's all within the zeitgeist, I guess. Now there's so much stuff.
There's just too many choices.
Not
That's
even just
what you're
like
getting at?
Yeah, not even just VOD, but like even theater movies. There are weeks where we go to 4 movies, and a lot of them make money. A lot of them make $30 million, which $30 million back in the 80s, a lot of money. And so it's hard to parody anything now because of that.
Because you're assuming that a large amount of people have seen that show or that movie before you can parody it, right? So there are people who, you know, we went to Scary Movie without having seen all the movies that it's based on. But if I said I'm putting out a Game of Thrones parody, are you going to watch it without having seen Game of Thrones? No.
Probably not.
So you only start from a position of working from fans of the thing you're parodying. And so I don't think it makes as much sense to studios anymore because there aren't as many movies that are so in the other than Marvel right now. There's not anything that's so everyone is watching that it makes it tough. But like the scary movies are the ones for me because I wasn't into horror when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
So like The Ring and Signs in Scary Movie 3 were movies that I went back to see after having seen that movie. And it's weird. It's weird to watch a parody without having seen what it's based on. It's a very strange feeling.
Yeah.
No, that absolutely makes sense. Is because for some reason I think I watched Scary Movie 1 at a friend's at like a sleepover, and then I was like, "Are there more of these?" And then we watched 2. I went and saw 3 in the theater. That was the very first PG-13 movie I've ever seen, and then watched 4 in theaters as well. And then after that, I remember I didn't watch this in theater, but date night or date movie I watched on a like date night in middle school or high school or something. But all of those movies I saw well before. Like I watched Scream again maybe a year ago for the first time. Like pretty much it's that movie. Or I Know What You Did Last Summer. There's stuff of that. Usual Suspects with the drop on Scary Movie 1. I was like, I've already seen this movie. Like literally everything already happened in that. Or like A Haunting, Signs, The Grudge, all of that stuff.
Signs.
Brokeback Mountain. I still never seen it, but I know essentially what happens.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I watched Scream that Nev Campbell got jizzed to the ceiling. So
yeah, see, beat for beat, literally.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But I guess what are some of your guys' favorite parody films?
Scary Movie 3.
Yeah,
Scary Movie 3.
That's ours.
We used to watch that movie. I remember we biked like 10 miles to a store to go buy it one day, and we watched it. We've probably seen it 50 times just together.
I still own the same disc. It's in my DVD zip up case, which not a lot of people have. But I still have the same thing. But yeah, we watched it. I mean, we'd watch it together. How many times did I watch it alone? Even more times than that. We'd fall sleepovers when we'd be cuddling each other before bed.
Yeah.
Scary Movie was playing. We'd wake up, the DVD menu would be going.
It'd be that scene where they're in the tent and getting all ready, putting knee pads on and stuff. So if a rat goes in the house, does it turn into a mouse?
How are you going to wake up dead and go to bed alive?
How can you turn up missing? Yeah.
But even like, it's funny too, though, because Scary Movie 1 and 2 both came out at times when definitely shouldn't have been watching those movies. I remember watching the first one at a party, a sleepover, and when she gets jizzed to the ceiling, I was like, what is that? You know? And then, so those do have kind of a rewatchability factor to them because you can go back and find all the jokes you missed, and there's always small things. But going back to that feeling of like going to a sleepover or going to a friend's house and watching those, knowing damn well you shouldn't be watching those, it was an interesting feeling. It's not something I got with really anything else. It kind of felt bad watching those, but then like 2 years later, I watched Old School with my parents and saw all kinds of boobs.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it was just honestly like we were probably prime age for it, and it was catered to us. We went to sleepovers, and some kid's parent just bought him it or rented it, didn't know, and then you're like, oh my God, what is this? Because I remember watching Scary Movie 1, and it's the Ray character is supposed to be like gay or whatever, and the dad of the kid that I was staying at like walked in, and he's like, what the hell are you guys watching? And because it's like obviously not appropriate for teenagers to be, or like 12-year-olds to be watching. But another thing is I think it hit us at the right time, but they are so damn quotable.
Oh,
Yeah.
God,
Like we were just going back and forth off the mouse and the
Yeah.
sleeping and the turn out missing. Like there's like grab my strong hand. Like
Cindy, the
there's
TV's
The
leaking.
TV's leaking.
yeah, Cindy, your TV's leaking, and then she's making popcorn in the first one, and it's a huge thing. And
My favorite thing still to this day, it makes me laugh every time, is when Brenda, she's working as the teacher, and her and Cindy are having a conversation. Cindy leaves and a pencil case explodes on the wall, and she just turns and goes, "Who the fuck did that?" And that movie is PG-13. You get
Yeah.
one fuck.
Yeah.
They
And
used it on that.
Oh, they used it brilliantly.
oh yeah,
The one Scary Movie 3 that so goes under the radar, but I love the quote, is the guy that ran over his wife.
oh my god,
He goes, "Hey, Tom, I'll need a ride home."
yeah, yes, that's perfect.
I love those movies, man.
Yeah, they're great.
Did we just watch Scary Movie 3 pretty recently?
Yeah.
And that's, oh man. It's not very good, but like, we love it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, that whole scene too, because that's from Signs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that was spoiled for me too, because, but I was waiting for M. Night to sit up and say, "Hey, Tom, I'm gonna need a ride home."
Yeah. That's one I actually saw. I saw Signs before I saw Scary Movie 3. You know what's another parody movie, but really isn't. It is, but it isn't. Austin Powers.
Yeah.
That's that.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, because
Because it's supposed to be James Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are some of my favorite movies ever. Like, especially Austin Powers 3, Gold Member. That's one that both of us have watched a billion times. And there's stuff within those that is very close to Austin Powers. I mean, I think the first one was really more of a parody because they did like Dr. Evil, Dr. No, and all
Yep.
that stuff. And they had the guy that throws the hat. And
Odd Job.
yeah,
Random task.
Random task.
yeah. So they definitely were going for
Yeah.
it. And even Gold Member is like Goldeneye and all that, but the plot kind of went different
Yeah,
directions.
yeah. I
but-
think that they kind of almost made their own thing from it, because the second one I think is supposed to be like Moonraker, because they go up to the moon or space or whatever. And then obviously Gold Members, Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but those are definitely parody films.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Spaceballs, right? Where
Yep.
you can tell that it's influenced by James Bond / Star Wars, but it's so uniquely its own thing that I don't think many people think of either of those movies as parodies.
That's the only one talking about like why they don't like ones not being around anymore. If Spaceballs 2 ever came out, that would blow up.
Yes.
That would be huge.
Yeah.
That would be almost like you'd probably see more anticipation out of a lot of Star Wars fans for that than Star Wars.
Probably,
Like-
and they hinted towards it in the
Yeah.
original one. Obviously,
Yeah.
the search for more money.
You're not going to get Rick Moranis back, I don't think, as Dark
No,
Helmet.
no,
He did
you
come back in
won't.
an episode of the Goldbergs, though. As
I know, but still, like Lord Helmet, everything like that was almost ahead of its time in a weird way,
Oh,
because it
very
was so
much.
smart.
Yeah.
The way they did everything, like, and again, that's very quotable too, because they're in the desert, and he's like, "We're combing the desert," and they have
Yeah.
giant combs.
Giant combs.
He's like, "You find anything? We ain't found shit."
That is a style, like Airplane, all the Mel Brooks stuff, Blazing Saddles, like that. You ever watch that show, Angie Tribeca?
Yeah, you told me about it. It was too much for me.
It's a lot.
They got a lot going on.
Everything
but that's exactly
they
what
say
it is.
a joke, and that's that old, I guess, like 80s style of comedy where everything is like they'll either literally or figuratively say something and then do something on screen that's the opposite that you don't see as much of anymore. But I love it. Like Airplane is a perfect. Naked Gun does it a lot
Yeah,
too.
Naked
Like
Gun.
I love that stuff.
And now people parody stuff. Parody movies are YouTube now.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. It's because they can get it out so much quicker. It's quick. Like
Yeah.
a week later, it's old news.
YouTube and Twitter and like all that stuff. People will do. It's mostly parodying is memes now.
Yeah.
That's what parodying is. And like back in the 80s when these movies started coming out, it was like a totally different kind of comedy. Like people didn't make fun of things people loved back then, you know? And for them to do that, I think that was just like people are like, this is genius because this is new. And I get like there's so many things that we see today that we think are genius that are 5 years from now are going to be like old news. So I think it's just a matter of the time. But you could still do like Spaceballs 2 would be huge. You could still do parody movies, I think, in certain aspects.
Yeah, there's certain like I'm pretty sure that they've never done a straight up Harry Potter one, but I know that there's been Harry Potter elements in some of those later ones, like Disaster and crap. Like those are what I felt like kind of ruined it because it was just
Epic movie. Remember
yeah,
that one?
epic movie.
Oh,
yes.
that was bad.
Epic superhero disaster date.
You know what I
Meet
think
the
fucks up those
Spartans.
movies as much as anything, though, is they were making pop culture references outside of the movies they were parodying.
Yeah.
And it was like there's Kardashian jokes throughout all those movies. And
Napoleon
it's like,
Dynamite was an epic movie.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's so, just make a parody. That's why I think Spaceballs holds up.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter when it was made. It's making fun of Star Wars.
Yep.
Not
It
Star
kept it
Wars in
contained.
1989. Like all those other movies, there's not as much rewatchability because the jokes were so that moment. You know, there's the fifth one I think had Charlie Sheen and Lindsay Lohan, who were famous big time for 6 months for being drunk, and then now you'd be like, why do I care that it's Lindsay Lohan and Charlie Sheen? You don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's weird. It's really weird because I guess times change, entertainment's changed. Back then though they focused solely on certain things, and like you said, I don't know, was an epic movie that had Napoleon Dynamite. It's like, why is he in this movie? It
He
doesn't
started
make
off
sense.
the movie and he did like the gosh, but he did it like 17 times. Like, gosh. I'm like, okay, that got old immediately.
Oh God. Well, I guess down in the comments, let us know what parody films you love, ones that are quotable, all of that stuff. Like, I'd love to. I'm sure there's quite a few that we missed. I know that there's one that's making fun of The Fugitive called Wrongly Accused, and instead of a fake arm, it's like a fake leg or something like that. I keep hitting the mic.
You're gonna have to. I just got a thing. I think my card is full on the camera, so I think we're not getting visual anymore.
Oh no, we're out of visuals.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're gonna wrap this up then. Thank you for letting me know that because, yeah, this is just gonna be a black screen. But no, thanks guys so much for the conversation.
We can just take a picture of ourselves.
We could pose.
Yeah, and I'll animate the mouths moving.
Yeah.
Just don't say a lot of like tough words.
Yeah. Supercalifragilistic.
Oh my god.
Watermelon.
Watermelon, slip, slap, slooping. Anyways, no, thanks guys for joining me on
Yeah, it
episode
was fun.
4 of Movies and Nonsense. Literally, I didn't expect us to go this long. I say that in every episode because I don't know. I originally thought this would be like a 30-minute thing, but
Yeah.
hour long.
Short podcasts are fucking hard, don't we know?
Yeah. Closing things, like do you guys have anything to promote? Where can people find you? Obviously the SoCo Show. I'll have all of the stuff in the description, but do your thing, sign off where you can be found and whatnot.
Facebook, Twitter, you'll have the links. It's SoCo Show Pod in both places. Seth runs the Twitter, I run the Facebook. Our individual Twitters, I'm at _ Cody Michael, and then on Instagram I'm at Pics by Cody. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, you can go to my Twitter if you'd like. Seth Ott. Seth Pancakes Ott is the Twitter name. But most of all, you can just find me at your local Subway every day, 4 p.m. I'll be hanging out, doing autograph signings, and loudly yelling poetry at people. So
Nice.
I don't do that.
The sandwich connoisseur, the foot-long fiend. That sounded really gross.
Yeah.
No, thanks, guys. Believe me, there's comments, or there's the links in the comments down below. Be sure to check out their stuff because, again, 111 episodes is insane. Actually, by the time this posts, it'll be probably like 113 or 112, and then plenty more podcasts. Thank you guys for joining. I'm hopefully gonna get you guys on. I'm sure I will. For many more episodes, but thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Happy to do
Thank
it.
you.
Love
It
to
was
come
fun.
back.
Slip, slap, sloopy. All right, see you guys.
You just did a piece to the camera, even though it's not
I
right.
forgot.
Jared, you should have ended it with, "We will see you next week."
We will.
Bye.
Bye.
We won't be missing much. I think I caught it pretty quickly
Okay.
after it stopped.
I mean, if anything, it's 4 minutes. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Take a picture of ourselves and we can pose.
Yeah.
You
You
can
need to
take
check your
a-
steps. Do you need to go walk outside?